Hello, Heart Nation. It is Carla J, your host of Carla's channel, Heart to Heart Inspiration. And I am so excited today. Today is January 19th, 2025. And I have an awesome guest today. Her name is Erin Jane, and she is our guest for today. She is a first responder and life and wellness coach. And I hope I said that right, Erin.
That's
I
fine.
hope I said that right and I did you justice with that. But before we get started and get into all of your business today, Erin, how is your day going so far?
My day has been lovely so far. Thank you, Carla, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so excited. The one thing I love about podcasters is that you get a chance to have a community and
Mhm.
really invite other people, refer other people. And that's what happened with us. Our good friend and
Absolutely.
mutual friend, Dave Murp. I'm saying
Yeah.
friend, but I literally met him as a guest
Yeah.
and I consider him a friend now, Dave
Yes.
Murphy. And he also referred me to you. And now you've referred someone as well, and I cannot wait to have that
It's
guest on this.
how the world goes around in podcasting, I think.
Yes, yes, I love it. So thank you so much again. So as we get into it, just trying to give everyone a little bit of time to get in.
Yep.
So I'm glad your day is going well. And as a little icebreaker, what
Yep.
is your favorite sport? Basketball, football, or baseball? If any of those, and if not, which one you throw out and what you would.
Yeah. So I'll throw a little twist on it because I will say football, but I will say Australian rules football, which is known as the AFL.
Okay.
So that's the sport that I grew up sort of watching, and you played at school a little bit. And yeah, so just a slight little twist on it.
I love it. I love it. The football. Am I saying it right? Football, or is
Yeah,
it?
we call it footy. We're just like, oh yeah, did you watch the footy? Did you go to the footy? So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you and I talked a little bit before as we were getting to know one another. And I told you one of my daughters played professional basketball in Ballarat,
Yes.
Australia.
Yep.
So she had a good time there. She really enjoyed it. So and she
Good.
saw a lot of the sites, the
Yeah.
kangaroos and things
Yeah.
like that. So and
Yes.
she loved it. It
Oh,
was really great.
I love hearing stories of people enjoying my homeland. So that always makes me really, really happy.
Yay, awesome. Okay, so as we are getting into it,
Hmm.
and thank you, Heart Nation, everyone, for joining. So I'm going to give you a choice of three foods, and each food is connected to two questions. So whatever one you choose, I will ask that question. Okay.
Okay.
All
Sounds good
right.
to me.
And I don't know if you're a vegetarian or not, but I have
Oh,
some food
no.
with some meats. Okay.
No, no, no. My husband's a hunter. I eat all of the meat.
I love it. I love it. So we have pizza. I don't know if you can see
Hmm.
my screen.
Yeah, I can see
Pizza.
pizza.
I have salad,
Hmm.
and then I have tacos.
Oh, that's a tough one. When I'm being good, I would say salad, but let's be bad tonight. And what I would actually really like to eat all of the time would be pizza. Let's do pizza.
Okay, pizza. So here we go. Your first question for the pizza is,
Hmm.
what advice would you give someone considering a career as a first responder or law enforcement?
Oh, just the giving me the easy one straight off the bat, Carla. I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, so having had my own 9-year career in law enforcement as a first responder, and my husband is an active duty firefighter who's been on the job for I think 22, maybe coming up on 23 years now.
Wow.
Um, it is in hindsight and retrospect, as well as right here, right now, in the moment. Eh, Learning really good coping skills,
Ah, okay.
learning learning how you function under stress, because these are innately very stressful jobs. Um, and then being able to cope with the things that you see.
Mm,
They prepare you in a way to, fight through your kind of fight or flight
mm,
responses, and because
okay.
they teach you teach you how to do your job, whatever first responder role you do. But the thing that we don't really get taught is kind of how to unpack the trauma
Yeah.
exposure, how to unpack and cope with and deal with all of the things that we see. So,
Mhm.
learning really good coping skills,
Okay.
so you can function and be adaptive in that way. So, a lot of the common ones that people fall into is, alcohol abuse and avoidance and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
Just very maladaptive coping mechanisms. So,
Mm,
finding things that are healthy for you as well as help you process your emotions and experiences and all that kind of thing is probably the biggest piece of advice that I would say is important.
I resonate with that. And if someone can write in the chat coping skills, because I want to make sure we have that down, healthy coping skills. Because as you mentioned, coping skills could also involve some not healthy things as drinking, and I've had some friends with partners in law enforcement, and
Mhm.
they also suffered sometimes abuse
Yeah.
from their partners as well. And that could be, an unhealthy coping habit. But one thing that you said that really resonated with me, Erin, is as a first responder and in law enforcement, you're taught how to do your job, not really how to unpack it. And I can relate with that as being a nurse.
Very much so.
One prepared us for the things that we would see,
Yeah.
the trauma, that PTSD component. No one
Mhm.
prepared us for that in the
Yeah.
role. So thank you for saying that. And I do agree that coping skills are very important, healthy coping skills.
Yes,
Um,
that's the key word, healthy coping skills.
yes, I like that. Um, Healthy coping skills. Okay. Thanks, Doris, for joining from West Hills, California. We hope that you are doing well in California with the fires and
Yeah,
things that have happened.
very
So
much so.
we're wishing you and your family well.
Mhm.
So healthy coping skills. So part two of this question is, uh, I'm gonna put this in the chat.
Mhm.
Part two is, can you share a story or situation where you felt you truly made a difference?
Oh, okay. Truly made a difference. I think
Great way of putting you on the
very yeah, I know, question without notice. Um, I will share one, and I don't know whether I made a difference, but I think it was impactful for the person in the moment. And it was, I was a very, very junior police officer, and we attended we were called to a house where someone had just tried to complete suicide, and they
Mm,
were unsuccessful. And we got called there. We beat the ambulance, and he was managed to get himself inside the house, and he had a head wound,
mm.
and was in a pretty
From a
bad way.
gunshot?
And no, so attempted hanging.
Okay.
Um, and then it snapped, and he fell and hit his head and all that kind of thing. So there was I could see lots of stuff that you don't, obviously you've probably seen in your role. I'm not meant to see in my role. And my senior member, he was like, "Oh, I left a suicide note." So my senior member takes off down to the office to, read that. And I was 22 years old. I was like this
Wow.
kid just left with this guy who had just obviously been in so much pain, trying to
Mhm.
take his own life. And I kind of, I have a history of suicide in my family. That's how I lost one of my parents. So
Oh, wow.
I did not try to talk to that man at that time as a
Okay.
police officer. I just tried to talk to him as a human, and
Mm,
I basically I just was like, mate, what the f? Like, what is going on? What's going on in your life that made you think that this was your only option? And
mm,
he, went through a couple of things that obviously been troubling him, and I looked around and I'm like, I can see, you've got framed photographs of people
mm.
in your life that you love, and I'm like
Nice.
they're gonna miss you I'm like,
Wow.
people care, even if you don't think so. People care, and this is like this guy's lying down. I'm holding pressure over his skull because it's
Mm,
cracked and all kinds of
wow.
messy stuff
Right.
going on, and I'm just saying, I'm like, look, I'm telling you, I'm like, as someone who was left behind, I'm like,
Mhm.
people are going to miss you. I'm like, please get yourself some help and realize that people love you and you are going to leave a gaping hole in their life
Wow.
if you pursue this. And he kind of just turned around and looked up at me and was like, oh wow, you're actually a really nice police officer.
That is good.
I'm like, mate, I'm just the same as you. I'm like, and we got him in an ambulance and he went off to the hospital and hopefully got some help. But it was just a very small moment, but
Mm,
I guess I hope it resonated with him. But he just needed that empathy and
something.
compassion in that moment. No judgment, nothing else. Just
No
you know,
judgment. I
yeah.
love that. And first of all, let me just back up for a moment and say, I'm sorry to hear about that from one of your parents. And
Thank you.
I'm wondering, we'll get into that, but I just want to say I really appreciate you sharing that piece of your personal life and how you talk to that person during that time. It sounds like it made a huge difference. And you know, just some words, when I had on Dave Murphy, he said he had a bout of suicide
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. And
Yep.
he stated that, will anyone really care if I
Yeah.
ended my life today? And that is truly something that sounds
Mm-hmm.
like you had touched that part of him. Like people will miss you, you'll leave
Yeah.
a gaping hole. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And Doris says, thanks for being there for him. So
Oh, that's
that
very
is good.
kind. Yeah, of course. And I
Yeah.
mean, part of when I first moved to America, I first volunteered and I worked for a suicide prevention and crisis counseling organization for a couple of years. So it's obviously something I feel very passionately about, and I dealt with it as a police officer, and then again as a crisis counselor. So talking to people in that state is something that I wouldn't say you ever get comfortable doing, but it doesn't scare me because
Mm,
people people need people in those moments, and I prefer that they're actually talking to someone when they are
mhm.
struggling in those moments. So
Oh,
I think it's
that
important.
is it is. It's so important. And Deborah said, thanks for being there for him. I got my D's confused. So okay, you have two foods left. We have tacos left, and we have chicken salad left.
Well, I better do the good thing then and give me the salad. So
Okay. So the salad says, what inspired you to join the police force and how did your career unfold?
Sure thing. So I left school, strangely enough, wanting to be a English and history teacher. That did not eventuate. And I was just kind of burnt out after high school. I got glandular fever towards the end,
Oh my
which you guys call mono. And I was just all done with school, and so I just went and worked. And then I was about 19, and I was just sort of, floated around psychology and policing and all that kind of thing. And the policing really just called out to me. I didn't have any first responders in my family at all. My maternal grandfather was a war veteran and fought in World War II. So that was kind of the only element of like service. And my uncle too was has been in the Army Reserves for I think 47 years or something like that.
wow.
So there was that kind of element of service in my family, but not in a first responder capacity. But yeah, so and I just kind of was like, I'm 19. I'm probably a little young in probably maturity and life experience and all that kind of thing. So I gave myself till I was 21, and I still felt really passionately
Wow.
about it. So I pursued it, and yeah, went through all of the process that you go through, and
Police
yeah.
Academy and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a 5-month academy, and then you spend the first 2 years of your well, they did back then, they changed it slightly now, but then you spend the first 2 years on basically as a probationary constable. You have to go back to the academy periodically for what they call retention, but basically just extra education, and then you have to submit a portfolio of work ticking off a number of things, and you end up with a diploma of safety and public policing or something, or public
Mm.
safety and policing or something like that,
Okay.
at the end of your 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that was just all like general duties, and then I had some of the people that I make really good friends with within the job, they were sort of a little more of the investigative
Okay.
direction, and that sort of really sparked my interest too. So I sort of went down that path because there's obviously lots of different roles you can play as a
Mm.
police officer,
Okay.
but sort of the detective trajectory was where I wanted to go. So I did a couple of different like investigative secondments. I
Mm.
had to get my field investigators course qualification,
Right.
which basically just gives you a little bit more information about, going and attending crime scenes and all that
Oh,
kind of thing.
oh,
And then I did 6 months temporary duties at the drug task force as part in
okay.
the crime department. And then I got my position at the armed crime squad. And so, yeah, I was a detective senior constable there, and I that was where I was working after when I met my husband, and and that was where I was working when I resigned to move over here to be with him.
Oh, okay, nice. Well, that's a lot to unpack.
I
Who
know, right?
knew that there was so many courses to take for
Oh,
detective and investigation? That's good.
I
I'm
love it.
glad you educated us on that.
Yeah.
Um, wow, that sounds like a lot. So, we just see the glamour on TV, right? Um, and and I'm just thinking about the glamour. I love when you say the constable. I see that on the TV shows that I look at. I love that. I love it. I love it. Um, and and then all that you did, and so you met your husband, and then you resigned, and then you came here to America, I should say, to
Hmm.
U.S. to the U.S.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
nice. How did you
So
meet? Because you were there.
yeah, so we actually met in Europe.
Okay.
We both just happened to be in Berlin, Germany on the same night, same time, just completely randomly. I was there traveling with a girlfriend. Did like a 6 week Europe trip because when you're in Australia, you're really far away from everyone and everything.
Oh,
So when we travel far, and we travel for like typically a long time. So yeah, so I was just traveling through Europe with a girlfriend, and he happened to be over there with one of his friends to see his favorite band.
oh,
Um, so yeah, we just randomly ran into each other one night, and we met and married, in 9 months.
wow.
Yeah, so like
That's
our first sort
another
of
story. Wow.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So our first date after like that first time we met up in Hawaii because that was
Oh,
halfway between Boston and Melbourne, where I'm from.
okay.
Um, so yeah, then we got engaged in Boston, and then we got married in Australia.
Oh, nice.
Um, and then I moved over here in I think April 2015. So I guess yeah, I'm coming up
Mm,
on 10 years, weirdly enough.
yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so we've been married for coming up on 11 years in March, and we got two beautiful little boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. So
Oh, you are a busy mama.
I
You
am.
are busy.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I do want to say thank you for your service, you and your husband and your
Mhm.
family members. So thank you for all that you do. Now, the second part to the salad question
Yeah.
is, what misconceptions do people have about law enforcement and first responders?
Good question. I think when I was a police officer, it was less social media, less I guess everything we did wasn't as public as it is now. Whatever we do, people pull up their iPhones and all that kind of thing, and I
Mhm,
think there can be some harsh judgment
mhm,
because people just see a snapshot of
mhm,
something going on, and additionally, people don't sort of understand um the training that we go through and the reasons that sometimes that we do things. So, and even one that I get in my private life from like my friends, if there's been like a shooting, an
Mhm,
officer has shot someone, they'll be like, oh, well, why don't they just like shoot them in the leg and da 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 da. And
mhm.
that's not how we're trained.
Okay.
Because if I'm shooting, if I'm in the position where I have to draw my firearm, it's literally the last resort. It means that either I think my life is in danger, or a member of the public's life is in danger, and I have to use lethal force, which I have to justify
Mhm.
in order to do it. And we are taught to shoot center of body mass. And
Oh,
typically like a leg is going to be moving and all that kind of thing. So there are
mhm.
reasons that we do the things that we do, and the public isn't always aware of that. And I think that it can lead to a lot of judgment. And
Mhm.
we are there to serve the public. And look, there are bad apples everywhere you go.
Mhm.
So, an organization that is full of thousands of people, are there going to be a couple of bad apples? 1,000,000%, of course there are. But that
Mhm.
is not that is not like just solely the purview of law enforcement or
Mhm.
of first responders. It's everywhere. Like, you worked in a
True,
hospital, I presume. There would have been,
true. Absolutely.
incompetent, bad
Yeah.
people. Like, it's just one of those things that typically, if there is someone of us that doesn't necessarily have the best of intentions, it gets publicized a lot more, and
Yeah.
then we all get kind of tarnished with the same brush, unfortunately, which 99.9% of people doing either a law enforcement job or as a first responder are there because they really believe in what they're doing, because they're not doing it for the salary. Well,
Mhm.
put that out there. Like, it's
Right.
it's a it's a job of service. It's because we care. It's because we're compassionate. So yeah.
That is a good point that you made. I appreciate you talking about that. I know, especially recently, there's been so many, themes out there, defund the police, and a lot of judgment. And so I appreciate you saying that. And it's important for us from the public's viewpoint to keep those things in the forefront,
Yeah.
that we only see a snapshot, and that the police really are there to serve the public. And that's a small percentage. And I like the analogy that you did from, like, my standpoint. I can give you many stories about some nurses that are bad apples, who
Yeah.
did not and who did not perform to the best that I think they should have, or in the
Mm.
best interest of the patient or family. So thank you for making that analogy,
Yeah, of
about
course.
that. And I do get upset when I see stereotypes, or I hear things that about
Mhm.
nurses. I'm like, that's not all of us. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
of course.
And thank you, Jerry, for joining us. And then Doris said, Erin, it takes a special person to be on the front lines. Stay strong, coach. That's it.
Thank
Yes,
you, Doris. That's very kind. And hi, Jerry.
yes, yes. So, knocked over my mic. Okay. So, got so excited. So the last one is tacos. So we
Mhm.
just have our two questions
Yeah.
there.
I have a question. Is there a margarita to go with those tacos?
I love it. I love it. You know what? You're gonna make me add that to my.
As well you should.
Yes, I love it. I'm gonna have to do that, Erin. How did you handle the emotional toll of the job? Earlier, you talked about healthy coping skills,
Mhm.
and how did you handle the emotional toll of the job? And what have you seen in others as a mental health coach that you are?
Yeah, definitely. So, myself, I did obviously, being younger, participate in some of the more maladaptive ones of the excessive drinking. It's a big part of the culture of law enforcement, and particularly being Australian. So, drinking to cope was definitely something that I did. But fortunately, I've just always had a wonderful group of friends, and made really great friends, like within the job too. And I just always have found talking my problems out, really always helps me. It helps me to feel supported, and I guess to process things in real time. Um, And that is additionally sort of why I am a life and wellness coach for first responders, because there is a vast amount of cultural stigma in terms of being or admitting to struggling and allowing that vulnerability out, because then it's like, well, you're not tough enough, you can't do the job, or it's just suck it up mentality, which is what has permeated those positions for a really, really, really long time. And so a lot of people are just sort of against speaking up because they're embarrassed and ashamed and fearful of what the consequences are going to be. And so you've got, your peer support, which is typically people at either that station or department level and their colleagues who sometimes they can go and speak to. And then you've got, clinical services. So going to speak to some form of a clinician. Life and wellness coaching sits in the middle of those two. And I look at it like it just bridges the gap, because sometimes you need someone to talk to. And having been a first responder and being married to one, I have a unique understanding of what it is like to be in each other's positions. And so therefore I am, I guess I position myself as someone who can talk to, who they can talk to, and I'm not going to get, you can tell me the worst thing that you did that shift and it's not going to scare me. It's not going to upset me or anything like that. It's like, yep, I get it. That was just your day at the office, was, seeing a dead kid or having to deliver, a death notification, or, dealing with all of the different things. I understand that is just part of your day. And so whether that's either just, having a bit of a debrief and talking to me about it, maintaining really good communication with your spouse, I think is additionally very important. And something I sort of preach a lot about is being proactive and preventative. So like I said, engaging in really good coping skills, or knowing what brings you peace, whether that's going for a 10-mile run, whether it's doing yoga, whether it's engaging in mindfulness meditation, there are so many things that are at our disposal, doing breath work, anything like that. So I think that is one of the things that is equally important. And that's why, and look, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And some people are comfortable speaking to their spouse. Some people can't. Some people are comfortable speaking to a colleague at work who might be part of peer support. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they need a clinician, and I cannot provide them the kind of care or a mental health diagnosis. I'm a psychology student and hope to be there one day, but today is not that day. So I can support them in a certain capacity, talking through some of their problems, setting goals, working on relationship issues, any changes, any positive changes that they want to, make in their life. And I can support them through that, and help keep them accountable. Additionally, coaching's client-led. So they're in charge of what it is that we talk about and what it is that we work on. And I think for a first responder population who are kind of used to being in charge, I think it's beneficial.
I really like that, that you said helping to keep them accountable. And also, I think there may be some comfort in knowing that maybe your role, and I'm not sure if your role actually goes on the record for them, but maybe having that's good. It doesn't go on the record for them. Having that outside voice to not worry about what I say is going to be a part of my record, for my job. So I think that's important. Thank you for that work that you do. And then our last question before we wrap it up and get all of your information is, are there any skills or habits that you developed as a police officer that you continue to use?
I would just say I think my observation skills. They obviously teach you to be very much aware of your surroundings and being able to read people, being able to read people's body language, being able to listen to what they say, as in and hear the words, but look at the inflection and intonation in like the tone that they use, in the words that they use, and the emphasis that they put on certain words. Becoming a detective, you go through an investigative interviewing course, so you really are taught to pay attention. You look at people's body language, the 1,000-yard stare, to say, okay, this guy's gonna box on with me, like I need to be prepared, all of those kinds of things. So I think really being very observant is something that I think I took away from my career.
Those are great things. Being aware of your surroundings. All of us can use that, and really being prepared and proactive. I really do like that. And so I appreciate you spending some time with us. We
Yes.
at our end of our journey for this session. We'll have to have you on again.
I would
And
love that.
I love it. I love it. I thank you so much. Thank you for your service, your husband, and your friends. And you have a podcast yourself. Tell us about that and where we can find you.
Sure. Yeah. So it's called I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. It's a first responder mental health podcast. And basically, I just have, conversations like these, either former or current first responders come on. We have conversations. We talk about their, professional experiences. We talk about the mental health aspects of their roles. And many have endured, either mental health diagnoses, suicidal ideation or attempts, or all that kind of thing. So we talk about that, and we talk about the things that have helped them in coming from where they were to where they are now. A lot of them have either written books, they've got educational organizations that they go and try to educate the first responder community. So yeah, I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. You can find it on all of the typical podcasting platforms, and additionally I post things about it on Instagram and Facebook under the handle Erin Jane Coaching.
Okay, perfect. Well, I look forward to it. And I've already listened to some of your podcasts. They are absolutely great. And the people that you talk to are doing great things. So thank you so much. Our audience says thank you for sharing, and maintaining your peace is very important in your line of work and in life. And Deborah says, thank you for sharing this important information. We are so happy that you shared with us, Erin, and we appreciate you, and we honor you and the work that you and the other first responders do every day. So with that, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And Erin, we'll catch up again soon. Thank you all. Good night.
Bye.